helping with traffic control at this time, keeping the traffic away from this major intersection out here. Most of those vehicles, LAPD, some of them are the Sheriff's Department. I can make that out right now. Again, though, the pursuit portion possibly over, that suspect still sitting in that vehicle, turning this more into a standoff. Marla? Well, that one I can't confirm or deny. I just know that when we arrived here, the vehicle was in a different position. While we were getting ready to get on the air, we saw it make that move. It looked like it was actually going to try to get in front of that vehicle that you see as the shop number 498. That's going to be a law enforcement officer vehicle that's going to be off to the left, blocking that driveway. It looked like he was actually going to try to squeeze his way into that driveway, maybe keep this going, but he didn't make that turn well enough. And then that other officer, that 116, basically bumped into the back right there, basically locking him in. After that happened, that driver's side window went up, and then one of those officers basically broke that passenger rear, the driver's side rear window. You can see a big hole right there. Even though there's tint, there's a huge hole right now. They use their less than lethal to do that. I'm guessing one of the reasons might be just to keep that communication going, so they can keep, probably talking on the loudspeaker and maybe actually even hear that suspect give a reply. There's also the other added benefit that if they start to use some pepper balls or some sort of gas or irritating pepper spray, they have a way to get that into the vehicle. Right now, though, standoff continues. LAPD working with the Sheriff's Department out here in the city of Lakewood. That suspect being very defiant, got those windows up. Clearly, we can see driver's side, both wheels, front and rear, those are flat. Don't know about the passenger side, but that car really seems to be disabled. And right now, it's just time for that driver to get himself out of that car and to go into custody.
On the southbound 5, driving northbound against southbound traffic. That was the most intense pursuit I've ever seen, that I've ever covered, going full speed against traffic. Fortunately, no major accidents happened as a result of that. So now we've come to an end after several pit maneuver attempts, several spike strip attempts. We have some flat tires involved here. I mentioned the blown out window in the background. The vehicle blocked in. Right next to it looks like I saw a Pizza Hut to the left here of the camera, Stu.
That's right, Marla. If those officers get hungry, I'm sure they can get some pizza while they're waiting for this suspect to make that decision just to come out, or if this is going to turn into one of those long played out standoffs. We've actually seen a couple of these in the past where even though it's a vehicle, they'll call out the Bearcat, they'll call out their Metro SWAT guys, and they'll come out here with that big truck, block them in, and then sometimes they sit for hours while they wait for that suspect to basically just get bored enough to get himself out of that vehicle. Other times, we've actually seen the officers, even from LAPD, become a little bit more aggressive, basically go and break that window and get that suspect out. I don't see any canine units here right now, so that to me means that they're probably just going to wait this out. They may have made some calls to get some officers to assist them, possibly the Sheriff's Department, because this is the Sheriff's area, or they might get their own from Metro SWAT, make their way over here to handle this standoff situation. While this is all going on, you can see the officers, some of them very trained on that vehicle. They have weapons out. Those are not less than lethal. Those are actual guns. So they are trained on it, but a number of other officers, you see them a little bit more relaxed. So they are basically trying to make a plan. Maybe they're going to come up with a way to get that suspect out of the car. Vinny's telling me right now that the vehicle moved. I didn't see that, but it creeps around back and forth. There you go. It is actually moving very, very slowly forward. Again, we've seen this in the past where we say, oh, he's stuck, he's wedged in, and then he makes his way out. Right now, though, with those two tires flat, it's going to be very difficult to kind of just zip out of there, but you do see that vehicle moving. So this attempt to keep this going continues. But basically, right there, that's not the, oh, it is the, well, we're going to watch. Let's just watch and see what's going on. Trying to climb up there. Another LAPD cruiser coming up to block him in. But again, it just kind of shows you that this guy just not giving up. And LAPD down there, it's like a battle of the wits. You know, they've got this bad guy that's going to keep trying to get that car to move. It seems to be climbing up onto that curb pretty well. But again, what's going to happen after that? You know, if that vehicle makes an aggressive move to those officers, I just don't want to see those and one of those officers feel like their life is being threatened and it turns into a situation where it's a shooting.
I mean, the cruisers there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 all together. That's what I just counted quickly. But just the desperation, the mentality to think that you could actually get away from all of these armed officers when you have two flat tires, you have a blown out rear window. You're surrounded, literally surrounded, and just the idea that this suspect thinks that they still might be able to elude authorities for a little bit longer. I mean, like I said earlier, Stu, now it truly is only a matter of time until this suspect will be taken into custody.
Well, we never assume that any of these suspects are smart. That you got to put that out there right away. But this guy has snaked away more than once. We've seen him do a couple of times where he kind of scoots around and gets out of there. That car's still trying to climb up onto that curb, nice and slow. You know, we kind of make a little bit of jokes about this, but this is actually a very tense situation. Those officers, they are armed, and if that vehicle makes an aggressive move, hits one of those doors, those officers will fire. So right now, though, it is very, very dangerous, very tense, maybe not as dramatic as we saw earlier on the 5 freeway with this vehicle going against traffic at freeway speeds, but definitely still that level of intensity where these officers, they have their weapons out. That suspect has the ability right now to just give up. And like you said, he is surrounded. There isn't a way out besides if he tries to get up onto that curb. And again, he's got that shrubbery right there, that little bit of a hedge line, and those tires are flat. So if that vehicle tries to make it through there, it's not going to really get traction. There's a lot of things against that suspect, meaning in terms of odds to get away. But we've seen it in the past where he's actually made a move here and there, and that pursuit is on again. Officers, they basically put a hole in that rear window. Don't know if these officers have any type of tear gas in their vehicles or any type of irritant that they could put into that vehicle to make it so that suspect's that uncomfortable that he just gets out of that car. Right now, that car is the only thing that suspect has that makes him feel safe, probably, and that's one of the reasons why he doesn't want to get out. But then again, I really don't know the mindset of the driver of that vehicle. Like you said, just get out, give yourself up. You are surrounded. There really is no place to go. And if you make that move right now, it could turn into something a lot worse. Somebody could get injured and possibly even lose their lives.
Yeah, and we're seeing that vehicle actually creep up on the curb there, despite having deflated tires. So this intersection is Bloomfield Avenue, Del Amo Boulevard. This is in Lakewood. It says Long Beach Lakewood, and it's right next to sort of a mini shopping center here, so that wouldn't be a good place to visit right now. You'd want to stay clear if you're anywhere near this area. Stay clear of this very tense situation. It's 2:30 in the afternoon. This officially started now 2 hours ago, 12:30 in South Los Angeles. We have made our way into Orange County, and then now here we are in Lakewood. This is where this all came to an end. Not officially over, though, because as Stu and I are talking about, that this suspect is extremely stubborn, that's an understatement, will not turn himself in. The tinted windows make it very difficult to see what's actually going on inside, but clearly there are no signs that this person is just going to give themselves up. Stu, on this situation, when we're seeing these guns drawn, you mentioned non-lethal force. What sort of weapons are they holding right now?
Well, that is lethal. Those are lethal weapons down there. Most of those officers have shotguns and other weapons pointed at that vehicle. The window does seem to come down every now and then, just enough so that can be some sort of communication. Again, we don't know if this is actual communication where they're saying, look, just give yourself up. You know, the only danger you're creating is to yourself, and if by staying in that vehicle, if you come out, you know, we're just going to take you into custody. I really don't know, but I would hope that is the conversation that's going on down there. You're right, that vehicle seems to be creeping every now and then, very slow moves. You know, perhaps he thinks that he still has that opportunity to get a little closer, and then maybe be able to bolt and make their way out of there. But with the number of officers that are basically have their weapons trained on him, the other vehicles that are in the area, this car is, like you said, blocked in. And right now it is a standoff, and the law enforcement time is definitely on their hands right now. There isn't any possibility of any other civilians being injured. This vehicle isn't driving recklessly on the streets, so they can pretty much relax a little bit, get that plan together. What it is, I honestly, if I had any information, I would pass it along. But I would be guessing that they're going to get crisis negotiators are probably en route already, and then of course they might be getting the SWAT or those heavily armed vehicles out here that will block that car in even more, and perhaps have that tear gas and put some sort of irritant inside that vehicle besides a dog to get that suspect to come out.
Yeah, we've seen those armed vehicles come in. If that's what it's going to take, that might be what they resort to. Creeping along even more along that curb, by the way. Yep. I just saw that happen. It's pretty remarkable, Stu, if you go back. Oh, and more movement. And those officers backing up. Yeah. Officers are backing up, and again, because this vehicle is starting to move a little bit closer, and these officers don't put themselves in harm's way, and so they're getting kind of moving out of the way of that vehicle, so that hopefully there isn't going to be an officer-involved shooting out here. You can see that the car trying to figure again. Yep. You said it. It's like, where's he going to go? But we've said that so many times in the past. I'm going to leave this one alone. There we go. He's off the curb, and you know there is a sheriff's vehicle at the top of the screen right there. But right now, where's he going to go? Now it looks like he's trying to climb that curb once again. I really don't know the frame of mind of that driver, but I would start to venture to say that perhaps maybe he's under the influence of something, because this continues to just kind of play out as this little game. And like I said earlier, it definitely seemed like he was waiting for officers to return to him so that the pursuit could continue on. And if he's thinking that this is a game, this is a very deadly game, especially if he stays inside that vehicle, something changes up, he uses that car as a weapon against officers, it's going to happen quickly, and we don't want to see that. And of course, law enforcement doesn't want to see that as well. But right now, it really is all up to that driver, how this is going to end, what they're going to do to bring this to an end. You know, he does hold many of those cards. All right, well, this is an interesting perspective. We have a ground camera that just arrived on scene, so you're seeing the split screen now, and that is, of course, on the right side. That's our ground camera. With the glare, though, it's hard to get a sense, but that is the suspect vehicle. Hard to see what's going on despite this front view. But it's good that we've established that, because we can probably monitor this a lot better. Not probably, we can. And then, of course, we have SkyFOX, the perspective on the left-hand side. So, yes, this suspect is completely surrounded. It is an armed carjacking suspect. This all started in South LA. With the reflection there, you just saw one of the choppers go by. That is not SkyFOX. LAPD still has its airship up, I suspect, right, Stu?
Yep. Definitely LAPD has their helicopters here as well, keeping an eye on their officer safety down there, making sure that if this vehicle does start moving again, then they'll be able to follow along with it. But look at the number of officers out here and how that vehicle is kind of wedged in there, like you said, at that mini mall. It is going to be very difficult for it to actually even go anywhere, and to go anywhere quickly with those flat tires. We've seen it in the past, that front wheel drive, if he tries to really gun it, those tires, those rims are just going to slip on the asphalt or whatever or the concrete, depending upon. But it is interesting that he continues to just kind of make these really small moves and try to reposition that vehicle in a way where he's thinking that perhaps he can still get out of there. But again, right now, officers, they're backing off a little bit just to give that suspect a little bit of space. But where he's going to go with that car, or what he's going to do with that space, that's really up to that suspect. Again, this happening in the Lakewood area. We're at Bloomfield and Del Amo. That suspect, like you said, been on the run for about 2 hours now. And,
yes.
You know, you've got to think he's got to be tired as well. You know, the adrenaline probably is worn off, probably a little thirsty. And again, we've seen him communicate with those officers down there. Just don't know what he's saying. Hopefully he is talking about possibly coming up with a plan just to get out of the car. And again, don't know why he doesn't. Why don't you just get out of that vehicle, go into custody? Perhaps there's something more, or maybe that suspect has other warrants, or there's other reasons why he's not getting out of that car in front of these officers.
Yeah, this pursuit certainly covering more than a couple of dozen miles. We saw it go from South LA to Buena Park and seemingly everywhere in between, from the surface streets back to the 10 freeway and the 5 freeway. It was a cat and mouse game on the 5 freeway for a long time. That standoff lasted for quite a bit in the Buena Park area, right by Artesia Boulevard. We thought it was going to come to an end then. That was more than an hour ago. So fast forward, and here we are in Lakewood. We saw several, 3 officially, no, pardon me, 2 pit maneuver attempts, 2 spike strip attempts. I do believe it was a pit maneuver that brought this one to this official halt here in Lakewood at Bloomfield Avenue and Del Amo Boulevard. It was non-lethal force that resulted in the rear window of this Honda Civic being shattered. We still see some movement from the suspect in this car, physically moving the car, trying to get away despite being surrounded by multiple LAPD officers. The Sheriff's Department is now involved. We saw the Sheriff's Department out there. We have our ground camera as well, tightening in on some of those officers out there. Plenty of weapons drawn on this suspect. Again, a carjacking suspect that was picked up at 12:30 this afternoon in South LA. And here we are in Lakewood, Stu. It's been a while since we've covered a pursuit that's lasted this long.
That's right, and then some of these standoffs, they'll go for hours and hours and hours. You know, I just got a little information from somebody that was saying that if he was in charge down there, and it's a law enforcement person, not just one of my friends, saying that how he was going to handle it, and it's basically what we've been talking about. They would deploy some sort of pepper balls to make some sort of irritant inside that vehicle just to get that suspect out of the car. That's basically all they need to do right now, is get him out of that vehicle, and then they could take him into custody. I'm unclear why that hasn't happened. Perhaps none of these vehicles have that type of weapon inside there. Maybe they've called for that. The Sheriff's Department, they are nearby. I'm sure they would lend something like that to the LAPD to bring this to an end. Again, there seems like there's some movement right there. The officers redeploying in some of the spots. That vehicle, thank goodness, hasn't moved much in the last moment or two.
Right.
And there we go. These officers blocking that last vestige of exit. Oh, look at that. As if that vehicle could have basically put it in reverse and driven out. just up the street. But right now, that option gone as well as that vehicle, basically the LAPD vehicle 116, now basically tapping that rear bumper so that it does not get out of, not have that ability to get out of there.
Closing in on the suspect even more. Okay, Stu, we're going to give you a couple minutes break here because we're going to go to that ground camera, and that is Susan Hirasuna's camera down there. We're going to bring her into the coverage right now. And Susan, I know you've just had a few minutes to assess the situation. What is it like there on the ground, and what are you seeing? All right, well, Stu,
yes.
Apparently you don't get much of a break. I thought we had Susan Hirasuna down there ready to go, but I'm sure she's busy gathering some information for us.
Yeah, and I see where our truck is. They are very close to the action down there.
Okay.
Good work on that team, and they, you know, I'm sure the camera operator is going to, if this comes to some sort of conclusion, they'll be able to get over there very, very quickly. They're actually in that parking lot. Large group of people, actually, you can see them across the street. So if the officers really felt that this suspect had a gun, I'm sure that they would clear out a lot of those civilians in the area. At least the deputies would be helping out in that fashion. But you can see a number of some of the camera crews right there and some bystanders just watching. So the fact that they've been talking about this suspect being armed, now probably that arm is probably not a gun. That we probably can take that off the list. Not a gun, but still, they're you know, I don't want to be the guy on the maybe. You know, the officer that's going to make that approach on that vehicle on a maybe. So they're always going to err on the side of caution. They're going to do what they've been trained to do. And right now, I can tell you, the window just went back down on that Civic. So he's clearly back up again. So clearly saying something and then rolling the window up. Clearly saying something, rolling the window up. So at least there is some communication. But getting him out of the car, that seems to be the deal. Actually, there's a good sign right there. If you see on the right side of the screen, one of those officers just showed up with a bulletproof shield. And this is one of the newer tactics that we've actually seen by the LAPD. And so they'll basically group together behind that shield. It is bulletproof. And get behind that shield and make an approach to that vehicle, and then, you know, either break those windows out even more and try to make an assessment. So when that window's being broken out, they can actually look in. If they don't see a weapon, then they can be a little bit more aggressive to get that suspect out of the vehicle. So this is a positive sign that we see that that shield here. Possibly they'll do that lineup and make their way over there. They're not going to do anything quickly, though. Everything's going to be very well planned and executed in a timely manner, meaning they're going to take their time, make sure that it's safe for those officers, and also that maybe that in a moment where the suspect might not see it coming. But right now, the standoff continues. We're in the Lakewood area, like you said. That vehicle very well blocked in, 2 flat tires, suspect behind the wheel, still talking to officers, but definitely not giving up.
Is this the first time? I noticed that they've cracked the window. The suspect has cracked the driver's side window down to be able to communicate with the officers. Is that right?
Yes, and we've seen that a couple of times right now, but he does it very quickly. So he's rolling down the windows, he's probably yelling something, and then he rolls the window back up again.
Okay, so it carries on. It seems like we're getting closer to when this suspect will give himself up. This is Bloomfield Avenue and Del Almo Boulevard in Lakewood. It all started in South LA. I'm being told now that we do have Susan Hirasuna. That's our ground camera. We have the split screen for you, the ground camera. That's Susan Hirasuna behind it. Susan, are you there? Can you hear me?
Marla, yes, I can hear you. Yes, we are at the corner of Del Almo and Bloomfield, as you mentioned before, not very far away, just one parking lot away from where that car is in standby, standoff mode with all of these patrol cars surrounding him. I can tell you it's an interesting scenario because there are some road closures, as you can well imagine, as you can see from SkyFOX. There is one police helicopter overhead circling, and of course all of the media helicopters that are keeping an eye on the situation as well. What I find so interesting is there doesn't feel to be that intense anxiety, at least from police officers. They're standing by. The ones that I can see seem fairly relaxed. I do see that there is a RA coming this way, although right now there's no reason for an ambulance, but it's probably good to have one at the ready. Lots of looky-loos, as you can well imagine. It wasn't an easy task to get here, as you could also imagine, but we are just keeping an eye on the situation. And I said, what I find so interesting is that it doesn't seem to be as if police officers are feeling too much stress on the situation. I think they're well aware that they have this guy in a situation where he cannot go, as you pointed out. He can't go anywhere, and so it's just a matter of waiting him out. And Stu mentioned the fact that this guy's probably hungry, thirsty, tired, and maybe happy that things have come to, for right now, a peaceful end. I don't see any officers. As I said, the posture of the officers seems to be fairly relaxed. I mean, fairly relaxed considering that in the past we have seen situations where it feels as if the officers themselves are a little bit on the anxious side. So I'm going to try to walk around the location. The place where the camera is right now is actually behind a hedge, and I'm too short for the hedge, so I can't really see over it.
Susan. Okay,
so
we'll
right
let
now,
you
Julio is telling me that he can
around.
tell that. Julio is telling me that he can see that they are talking to him, and I think Stu mentioned that as well.
Yes.
That he will lower his window, chat with them, have a conversation, and then perhaps roll the window back up. But yeah, Julio he has better eyes on the situation from the ground anyway. I can just tell you what I'm seeing in terms of the people that are all around. They're curious as well on what's going on. Plenty of media cameras here, of course. You know, even a young father with his toddler boy is here right behind the hedge with us. And I don't think that people are fully aware of what's going on, but they're about as curious as you would imagine they would be. So Marla, I'll send it back to you right now. As I said, I think Stu has a better vantage point than certainly I do.
Okay. All right, Susan, thank you. We appreciate your perspective. And I did notice the same, Stu, that Susan just mentioned, and that is the officers, certainly with their guns drawn, but the ones surrounding seem to be more of a relaxed demeanor, relaxed posture, considering the intensity of this situation and how long this has been going on.
Oh, that's clear. They divide their jobs. So some of these officers, they've got their weapons trained on that suspect, making sure that the other officers around them would be safe. And then, like you said, the more relaxed ones, well, they're probably making plans, and they probably have made a call into SWAT, like we've said. SWAT may be en route to this right now, or the Metro team, and they might be bringing that big Bearcat, which also is one of those situations where it's just kind of more of a command authority looking vehicle. That car, that little Honda, can't get out of this situation right now, and so if they bring in that big armored vehicle, they can get it a little bit closer, and then it's going to turn into a huge waiting game. Right now, though, I'm sure there is still some discussion going on, maybe not continuous discussion, but basically just saying, just give yourself up. They might even know that suspect's name by now. But as it stands, they got their weapons out. They're standing there. I was really hopeful when that one officer showed up with the shield that they would make an approach and maybe clear out that broken glass on that rear window, get a look inside, and then they could make a decision on what to do. But we've also know, just by watching the LAPD tactics and most law enforcement tactics, is that rushing in attitude, that moving quickly, that usually leads to mistakes, leads to somebody getting injured. So they know they have time on their hand. They're going to use that time for their benefit. Right now, though, that suspect, his time probably running out, and hopefully it's just going to be where he goes into custody and nothing more than that. That vehicle clearly still can run and drive, and if he makes some sort of aggressive movement towards those officers, this could end very badly. I understand Vinny seeing that there is some movement through that windshield, so maybe he's becoming a little bit more aggressive. We just saw something right there, something white up against the screen, maybe a cell phone. But at any rate, that driver, the more we sit here, the more we watch what's going on, the more, and think about what we saw today, the more that we're starting to realize that this driver, again, just speculation, might not be in the best mindset, perhaps under the influence of something. It was just all those crazy stunts that he's done today, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe the officers know that, and they're just kind of waiting for whatever those effects to wear off, and that suspect to come to the realization that this is over and just come out of that vehicle.
Okay, well, Stu, I'm sure this is not going to surprise you, but while we are watching the standoff continue with this carjacking suspect that we've been following for 2 hours now, there is another pursuit. And we have eyes on that pursuit. So we want to give you a look at this pursuit. This is of a utility truck. You see that right there. This is the southbound 57 freeway. Riverside County Sheriff's Department picked up this pursuit. Clearly a high-speed pursuit as is blowing by traffic. Southbound 57, last passing the 5 freeway. There are reports, though, that this truck, oh my goodness, weaving in and out of traffic, and given the size of it, extremely dangerous. This truck reportedly hit a bunch of cars already in this pursuit that, as far as I know, started just before 2:30 this afternoon, so within this hour. So this pursuit initially, Riverside County Sheriff's Department, CHP might be involved now that it's on the freeways here, southbound 57. I wish I could give you an exact location right now. I don't have that, but very dangerous what we're witnessing from the chopper live pictures here, southbound 57, getting caught up in a little bit of traffic on this Friday afternoon. But given the size, it's pretty remarkable to see the agility of this vehicle, this utility truck. So we have another pursuit this afternoon. This is Now I'm being told this is not the southbound 57. This is the westbound 22. Westbound 22. So this pursuit suspect has gone from southbound 57 to the westbound 22 in some sort of a utility truck. It's hard to tell what it says on the driver's side there in terms of the decal, what company this might be with, but clearly it's a work truck blowing by traffic at high speeds. So we're watching this from one of our choppers. We have our other chopper over. If we could do a split screen, that would be ideal. So I think we are going to do a split screen, so you can look forward to that. But so we have this pursuit, and then we have the standoff. This is in Lakewood. This pursuit on the right we have been with since 12:45 this afternoon. This has turned into a standoff with LAPD officers and also Sheriff's Department in Lakewood, where this carjacking suspect has been staying in his vehicle despite being surrounded by authorities. Stu, you don't have eyes on this other pursuit, do you?
No, Marlon. I've been trying to get something on the internet up here, but the internet very sketchy. Trying to at least watch along. We do know it's like you said, it's westbound along the 22. 22's out in the distance in front of us.
Surface streets, though. Now onto surface streets, and what I failed to report thus far was the original want apparently just failure to yield. That's all we know at this point. So, oh my goodness, going against wrong way traffic now. If we could get a city, that would be great for our viewers to be able to identify. So off the westbound 22 onto surface streets, we're going to get you a more concrete location as we watch this pursuit unfold on the left side of your screen. On surface streets of a white utility truck coming up against some traffic. Looks like they're going to go for the sidewalk into a Chevron parking lot, gas station here, crossing through that to get away, to get through that.
Dog. I'm sorry. On this one right here, they have finally got a dog here on scene.
Okay.
So maybe this one's going to be coming to an end. But again, these guys not moving any kind of quickly. Sorry about that. And I'm still trying to join in to see if I can follow along somewhere. But like I said, we're in the helicopter, and the internet just is very spotty up here. So if we can watch along, we'll join you on that other pursuit. But right now, this is the only one we can watch. If something happens here, we'll definitely get your attention. But the other one ongoing, so probably much more exciting than watching the standoff right here. That's for sure.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, so what we've just seen and what we can tell you is that we're in Garden Grove on the left side of your screen, and it is another carjacking suspect who just found his way into a cul-de-sac. You see the foot bail, and now this carjacking suspect in Garden Grove making his way on foot, fleeing from authorities. We haven't seen any of those authorities, though. We have eyes on him from above. It looks like he's carrying some sort of a backpack, making his way into, it looks like a gated community, maybe familiar with this area because he went straight for apparently someone's front door. So you can assume that they know where they're going, that this man knows where he's going, this suspect. So this is our second carjacking suspect of the day. In some sort of a gated apartment complex, it looks like. And it looks like they were able to make entry. So I would assume that this suspect knew where he was going when he made his way up. Nope. That's why you shouldn't assume, right? You know what that does. So obviously trying to elude authorities still, and maybe just finding some cover underneath this awning here of this apartment complex. It's hard to tell at this point. So we have two carjacking suspects, one in Garden Grove, the other in Lakewood. The other one is holed up in this Honda Civic with the back window shot out. That one was picked up in South LA at 12:30 this afternoon. It's now nearing 3 o'clock, 2:56 on this Friday afternoon, literally surrounded by LAPD officers with guns drawn. On the left side of your screen, we have a carjacking suspect running from, I believe it's Riverside County Sheriff's Department that is in pursuit. That's the agency that was trailing that white utility truck that found its way into a cul-de-sac. And now it looks like clearly in a residential area and maybe banging on front doors, let me in type of situation. It's hard to speculate. It's hard to know the mindset of this carjacking suspect running. Left that white utility truck in a cul-de-sac. A few minutes ago, they were driving very erratically on the westbound 22 freeway. So we're seeing the longevity of this suspect when it comes to this person's cardio level, because running its way through this residential neighborhood he is. And no one's out, which is good. If you know exactly where this is, please stay indoors, lock your doors, don't interact with this suspect, carjacking suspect on the left there. So Stu, we have quite the scene underway in Garden Grove while you're monitoring the situation in Lakewood.
Yeah, you know, Marla, you're making me a little jealous. I would love to be on the other one and watching this guy run, still on the move. Right here, though, this is pretty much turned into a standoff. We do have a canine, at least one canine officer there on scene. You can see that dog eager to start working as they're still walking around back and forth, trying to just get a better idea of what they're dealing with right there. Also, one of those other officers, they brought up one of those bulletproof shields. I was hoping that they were going to make an approach to that vehicle. It looked like that's what they were going to do. They're kind of lining up, and it seemed like that was the plan. Maybe they were waiting for this officer right there to show up with the dog. We do know that they've also reached out to get a crisis negotiator out here, so there might be somebody down there that, you know, has a better way of speaking to that suspect to get him to give up or try to figure out what is still holding him inside that car, meaning what is the motivation right here? Why are you staying in the car? Why don't you just come out and give yourself up? But at any case, while this is still going on, it is still a very dangerous situation. There was reports of a weapon. Again, we don't know if that was a gun or a knife, but the officer's always going to err on the side of caution. They don't want to have a suspect open fire on them when they try to make an approach to take that suspect into custody. But on the right side of the screen over there, every now and then you'll see that that officer with that shield. But again, they're not going to just run over to the car, take care of business. It's going to be very well planned out. They're going to get things together. And and apparently now we're getting information, pretty solid information, I can tell you, that he has some sort of razor knife or box cutter in his hands, and that is what that is the weapon that he used and the weapon that he continues to hold these officers at bay with. And again, this is one of those ones, never going to armchair General what that situation is. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to go open that door and try to take him into custody with a razor knife in his hands. So, and we also do know for a fact that the SWAT team or the Metro team definitely en route, those guys, that's what they're trained for. They are trained for situations like this and tactical situations where they'll be able to get that suspect out of that car safely.
Stu, thank you so much. Well, as you're monitoring that situation, we still have the other chopper above the other carjacking suspect who continues to run through this residential neighborhood. We can tell you that this is the city of Garden Grove. It looks like some community there because you can see the community pool making his way through this maze of homes in this area. Leaving behind a white utility truck that reportedly he carjacked. It was picked up by Riverside County Sheriff's deputies. While we've had eyes, though, on this running suspect in Garden Grove, we have not seen one law enforcement officer throughout our coverage. So we're waiting to see authorities arrive. They must know where he is. Obviously, we have just this small bird's eye view of this suspect trying to elude authorities, but surrounding beyond our camera, no doubt that there are authorities in the area. So we have two very different situations. The same want, though, carjacking suspect for both, whether you're looking on the left side of your screen or the right side. We have the standoff in Lakewood, and then we have the hunt for this carjacking suspect in Garden Grove on the left. And it looks like people are coming out maybe from their backyards, or maybe that's a park. Again, this is just pure speculation. I'm just communicating what I'm seeing along with you on the left-hand side of your screen. On the right, that standoff does continue in Lakewood, and we've had some eyes on that male driver behind the Honda Civic, the four-door with the rear window blown out. The demeanor, talking to authorities, talking to those LAPD officers on the ground there with their guns drawn. Well, it seems to be more relaxed, though, with those, and we've mentioned this a little earlier in our coverage, Stu, that certainly with those guns drawn, although are they drawn anymore? They're just kind of standing around.
Yeah, have their weapons drawn on that suspect. They've got a couple of them on two vehicles right there. They're going to keep an eye on him, make sure he doesn't make any aggressive moves. That vehicle still able to drive. We've seen it move around back and forth. Can it get very far? No, but it could be used as a weapon, and that's what these officers are keeping an eye on. The K-9 unit here early, apparently. The SWAT definitely been called to this scene, and again, I always hate saying that probably, but we do know that unless they see an opportunity to take that suspect into custody, now that SWAT has been called, they're going to wait for the trained officers to show up that deal with these type of situations. So basically right now it is just a waiting game for the SWAT truck to show up, unless that suspect opens a door or there's some sort of opportunity presents itself where they can make that move and take that suspect into custody safely. So right now these officers here to just kind of babysit, to make sure that that suspect doesn't go anywhere and doesn't do anything before the SWAT truck arrives. They are en route. I do not have an exact ETA, but they probably will get here pretty quickly, even though we are in the city of Lakewood. They're probably coming, most of them coming from the downtown area, so it's just going to be drive time with a little bit of traffic. But again, even when they arrive, it's not going to be them pulling up, jumping out of the car and taking care of business. It's going to be the same thing. They're probably going to move some of these squad cars out of there. This is going to be a long, drawn-out process. The only way it's going to end any quicker is if that suspect basically gets out of that vehicle or does something that's going to present an opportunity for these officers to take him into custody.
the driver's demeanor because of the glare. But now we're going back to Lakewood because authorities, in fact, just took into custody the carjacking suspect in Garden Grove, pardon me. So we're back to, on the left side of your screen, we're back to Garden Grove, where authorities have, in fact, you see him there, have the suspect who apparently carjacked, is wanted for carjacking that white utility vehicle and driving it at high speeds on the westbound 22, not to mention the southbound 57, reportedly hitting a bunch of cars along the way. That suspect, carjacking suspect in Garden Grove, being taken into custody. So we watched him try to flee authorities on foot for some time in this gated community in Garden Grove. So good work by police officers here for taking this suspect into custody. On the right side of your screen, that is where we're waiting for SWAT to arrive. That's what this has come to in Lakewood at Bloomfield Avenue and Del Amo Boulevard, where this carjacking suspect has been holed up in this Honda Civic with the back window blown out by authorities here. And we're now, as I said, waiting for SWAT to arrive. The windows rolled down. We've seen this happen multiple times today, where this man, you can see that it is a male suspect, is talking to LAPD officers, and then you'll see him roll back that window. Clearly, it's a negotiation that's underway. But in the meantime, LAPD and also the Sheriff's Department out there, they've called in the SWAT team. Stu? All right. Well, Stu is obviously gathering some more information. Susan, here is Suna. We can hear you. You have our ground camera. We have a little clearer view of the suspect there. What are you seeing?
Well, right now what I see is most remarkable is I think some sheriff's deputies are about to make the police containment area a little larger. As I said before, we're just like one small parking lot away from the car itself. It feels as if there's a lot of maneuvering going on right now. I see some police officers pointing and then going back and forth closer to where I'm located right now. And as Stu was mentioning, they expect a SWAT vehicle to come in. So that could mean a lot of, like, people have to move their cars or and as I said before, I have a feeling that this containment area will get larger. So because we are just east of Bloomfield and we have direct view to the car to the east, right now I don't know, other than here's a guy with a police tape in his hand, and yeah, I'm getting this sense that he's going to move us around.
We're gonna have a tape line right now.
Yeah.
Okay?
So you're gonna enlarge the containment area?
Yeah, it's gonna be, these businesses are gonna be evacuated.
Yeah.
This
You're
parking lot
evacuating
here?
people? Okay.
Yeah.
And the parking lot as well. Okay. So at this stage, we're just watching as he's now telling civilians to most definitely get out of this parking lot. They're going to evacuate the businesses around. I don't know what's inside the smaller parking lot or the parking in front of us and whether or not those people have already left. But the people that we were standing with in the next little strip mall over, they've all been told to leave. We're sort of in the space where we're trying to argue that we stay exactly where we are. I don't know if Julio was successful in convincing them that we should keep the camera right here, but that's what we have. That's also kind of coincides with what I'd seen earlier, which is a lot of pointing. I saw a couple of police officers pointing this way and that way. Again, that might have to do with the proximity of where we are versus where that car, the suspect's car, is, and the fact that they seem to be moving closer to bringing this standoff to an end. So if the SWAT vehicle gets here, they're going to have to make room for that. I do know that I saw the dog. I know that Stu mentioned the dog, and also with the dog, I don't think it was the dog's handler, but with the dog was someone that was fully armed. Now I see a couple of LAPD officers. They've run from the area closer to the suspect's car, and they are now going along to those businesses that are very close to the suspect's car. So to give you a sense, if you're looking from SkyFOX, you know that there's that little strip mall with a Pizza Hut, a salon, a Subway, a tuck shop that looks like it's closed. So now it looks as if, yeah, police are pointing and saying you need to get out of this area. As far as the other businesses behind me, it looks as if they just shut their doors. So it's possible they're not going to be evacuated per se, but more like just shut your doors, no more public access. And yeah, now the police tape. I was surprised about this. I will tell you, Marla, that when I first arrived and I was able to get to this location fairly easily and saw all of the other civilians that were inside this parking lot, I did find it a bit surprising. And now, as I feel is much more of a normal protocol, now the police containment area is getting a little bit larger, and people are definitely being told to stay out of the area. So the bulk of the looky-loos, or the bulk of the public that have come out from the Target or just because they're curious about the situation, they're now across the street. So on the north side of Del Amo Boulevard, they're collected on this corner. So the northeast corner next to the Target sign, they are farther away certainly than we are as the crow flies, but not that much farther away. But they must be strategizing in terms of what they are able to, the police are able to do in order to move forward with their strategy, but also, of course, make sure that no one else, no onlooker would get into a difficult place. Okay, that was a sheriff's deputy that I guess he's about to, maybe a lieutenant. He's got a couple more stripes than I gave him credit for, that is going to go and make sure that we can stay in this area. But Julio, our photographer, was definitely making the argument that we had the right to stay here. So I'm going to send it back to you, Marla, as we keep an eye on this situation. But yeah, things are definitely changing right now. It feels as if that they are wanting this to come to a conclusion, a safe conclusion, sometime in the next few minutes. I can't really put a timeline on it, but they are definitely doing something in order to move this forward. Marla?
All right, Susan, thank you. And you're absolutely right about that, because we're looking from Stu's camera and SkyFOX. And Stu, I'm going to bring you back into the conversation because I've been watching it here too with the canine handler there, the canine looking eager, and then those officers positioning themselves. Are those non-lethal weapons that they have there?
There's one officer there with less than lethal, and he basically made his way over to the hood of that vehicle, the shop number 511, the officer that's moving around right now. Something else that we've noticed that's interesting, this is the longest that driver's side window has been down pretty much since we've been here. He's actually has that window down. Does seem like there is some sort of conversation, or at least he has the window down so he's talking to or able to see those officers. The less than lethal officer, basically now, he was on that hood. He had his weapon out. Now he's moving around right there. That dog, that canine, he's been here for a while. Those dogs always very eager to do their job. And this one as well, we saw the handler actually trying to calm the dog down for a little bit there. But at any rate, the standoff continues out here. But you know, it is a positive sign that the window is down a little bit longer, and there is some kind of communication going on back and forth. There are in the area, we did see those officers, not the deputies, the officers going to the Pizza Hut, the tuxedo place, and the nail salon, checking the doors, and the doors are locked. Don't know if there are people inside sheltering in place, as it would be, or if they made their way out of there before we got here, or maybe we just didn't see them and they locked up the stores behind them. But at any rate, it seems like those stores that are right there by these officers have been cleared, and those, if there's somebody inside, they're sheltering in place and the doors are locked. As for that suspect himself, I would pay to hear what's going on down there. I would love to know what that conversation is, why he's not giving himself up. And there you go. It almost looks like the window went back up again. Marla, your shot might be, or your screen might be a little bit bigger than ours. So it does appear that that maybe he's closed the window or maybe just moved it up a little bit, but definitely there was some movement with that less than lethal. Thought maybe that they were going to break the window, the driver's side window out, but again, nothing's happened. The negotiations continue, and the wait for the SWAT to arrive out here seems to be the big thing right now. It's just a big waiting game till the officers from SWAT department or the Department of SWAT show up out here, or the Metro, and they are trained to handle situations like this. And again, that might happen quickly. It might take more than another 30 minutes, but time is definitely on the side of the law enforcement. And in this area, something else we always could talk about is traffic. Thank goodness I'm looking around down there. I do not see any big backups. It seems like this area, everybody's avoiding it the best they can. Marla?
We can be grateful that this is not on the 5 freeway as it was earlier, because it's hard to believe that this is that same pursuit, Stu. We were on the air close to 1 o'clock this afternoon with the 5 freeway in Buena Park completely shut down, while this same pursuit suspect started a standoff with authorities on the 5. That last, now we're seeing movement again with the vehicle.
Yep. Yeah, that's everybody in the helicopter at the same time said the car's moving, the car's moving. You know, I don't know what that suspect is thinking, or maybe he's had it in drive that whole time and just moved his foot off the brake. But those little tiny movements, that's basically all he's been doing since that vehicle's been up on the curb right there. That K9 is ready to rock and roll, but there's no way for that K9 to get into that vehicle right now. We do have that hole in the window, but that dog's not going to make his way through there. Also, that glass, even though it's safety glass, they don't want to injure the officer, the dog itself. So they're not, and there you go. You can see some LAPD movement right there. Oh, come on. There was an opportunity right there. He actually opened the door and then closed it. LAPD moving that one vehicle. Basically, it's almost like a chess game. You do a move, I do a move. They're moving up a little bit closer just to make sure that there's less wiggle room. And he's doing that, trying to back out again, looking, and come on, just come out. Just
Is
come
he coming out?
Come out, put your
Doors
hands out.
open.
Doors open. Doors open. But we watch this pursuit so often, Marla, and you said it too. We're not guessing. We're just going to watch what's going on. Standing up, but that doesn't mean he's in custody. He could easily make his way back inside that vehicle in a heartbeat, and we're right back at square one. Right now, though, complying-ish would be the way I would say it. Oh, there's a less than lethal round to the window, which kind of upset him. But there's another less than lethal. So, and the dog's kind of joined the takedown just a little bit. There you go. And he's kind of pushing the dog off.
Oh, wow.
You know, he's got the razor blade. Oh, I hope he hasn't slashed that dog. I don't want to see that. There he goes. He's
so the weapon then is the razor.
Oh, I hope that dog is
yes.
okay. Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. And now he's trying to leave. Now he's done with it. He's a little upset, but he really has no place to go. You can see that shrub right there. Yeah, it's just that car's not going to have that kind of movement. And now we're a little worried that they might actually shoot him with regular weapons. So we're going to keep an eye on it, stay a little bit wider. This is not what we wanted to see.
No.
That suspect getting out that vehicle, and I'm serious. I'm hoping that dog is okay. It doesn't seem like the dog is in any distress. That handler right there, but this might be the beginning of that pursuit. Once again, flat tires, and they're basically just letting that vehicle move along very slowly. The door's open again. I don't know what that's all about. And it looks like it's going to start going again. I'm not sure. I've been looking earlier on. There are no other there is another officer up the way, about at mid-block. There's another officer.
What is he
right
dropping?
I don't know. It is trying to maybe he threw the knife out. Maybe he didn't. But LAPD definitely working that pit maneuver. Yeah, very slow pit. Very, very slow indeed. Took that rear bumper off, blocking him in. But this guy's continuing just to try to get away. And this is what we've been seeing all afternoon. And it clearly hit at least twice by less than lethal. Is going to have some bruises. There's no doubt about that. And here we go again. Flat tires, LAPD following along. Another attempt at that pit maneuver. And we're going to move across.
The fact that this is in motion all over again is just unbelievable.
Yes. It is. I really am keeping it speechless right there, driving by some news cameras and just making his way. Now we're back on Bloomfield, working our way, it looks to southbound, slow speed. And we know that vehicle has several flat tires, dragging the bumper right now. And that driver clearly agitated once again. LAPD making his way, just looking for that opportunity. That was a civilian vehicle right there. He's making his way back into traffic. So here we go. That was an aggressive one right there. And again, if they don't get somebody behind him, this driver seems to be very clever with the, hey, I'm just going to back up and keep going.
Yeah, the driver, to the point, is not giving up, obviously. So
yeah, this is becoming more of bumper cars than pit maneuvers. There you go, another one. And now the car's getting blocked in. Now the car's getting blocked in.
This is literally bumper cars.
Oh, geez. Just trying to keep going, but that vehicle right there is kind of wedging it, so it's not going to get anywhere. But now we're just back to that same position again, where that driver's in that vehicle. If he gets out, that would be fantastic. But it looks like we're back into just another standoff situation in a different spot. Officers backing off, but you've got to give the LAPD again just the fact that there wasn't shots being fired. They clearly saw that this suspect only had a knife, that box knife, razor knife. I'm glad that that dog is okay. And right now we're listening in, but it seems to be that same situation. They're just going to block this guy in the best they can. Right now they're actually saying he's unable to get anywhere or move, but he's still in the car. He's not in custody. It's just the same situation about a block or two south of where we were earlier.
But now, instead of the strip mall, it looks like we're in front of a couple of homes there, right?
A couple of homes, a cul-de-sac.
Yep.
So I'm kind of wondering, we know that the suspect doesn't have a weapon, and right now that the vehicle being a weapon, that's been kind of taken out of his hands as well. He's wedged up against that curb. Enough officers all around that car. He is not going anywhere. And again, hopefully, he's going to look around and realize I can't. I'm going into custody. Even though it did seem like he was thinking about running, but then changed his mind and went back inside that vehicle. LAPD, they've got this guy surrounded. You've got that one officer down there with the yellow legal pad. I wonder what notes he's taking. I'd like to read that someday. But right now, it seems up the door's opening, or maybe it's actually hitting the curb, or maybe because of the damage he can't open the door. But hopefully he just kind of gets out of that vehicle and just allows himself to go into custody.
It looks like the vehicle might, the door might be
wedged,
broken, or that wouldn't surprise me given what we just all watched. Bumper cars, literally. So we're just, a couple of blocks down from where we were. We were at Bloomfield Avenue in Del Amo. Now we're at Bloomfield, and it looks like Lemming Street is the closest intersection. Once again, this carjacking suspect at 3:21 this afternoon has been eluding officers since 12:30 this afternoon, so almost 3 hours later, continues to do that, and once again is entirely surrounded. It does not look like that he will be able to drive away again. We have several officers, guns drawn. We've seen this situation before. Stu, it wouldn't surprise me if they're going to literally have to pull the suspect out of the vehicle.
Right. I'm kind of waiting for that.
Yeah.
I'm actually waiting for that. And but that's the thing too. Marla, we saw him swing that razor knife around at least twice. And I'm hopeful, or more than 90% sure, that dog was not injured. But the fact that he was swinging that thing around means that who's going to go take that? Who's going to take it away from him? Who's going to be the officer that's going to go into that vehicle and get into hand-to-hand combat and try to get that knife away from him? So right now it's the same type of situation. The door is open, which is a huge plus. I'm with you, Marla. I don't know if it's the fender that's keeping the door from opening or just the curb itself, but it seems almost like he can't get out of that vehicle right now. But officers, hopefully they're talking to him. Maybe there is some sort of discussion. And true, maybe he's looking at it like, I don't want to get bit again. But if he throws the knife out, that would be a huge step. So and maybe he did. Maybe he did. Marla, you mentioned it, right?
Yeah, well, and he didn't. Okay, going back to him throwing some items out of the vehicle, I wasn't sure what he was throwing out, so we're scanning back to see if we can see that. You're saying that he's no longer armed. Is that?
No, I'm saying that. No, I'm saying that if he throws that knife out, that would be a huge olive branch. That would be a sign that that okay, I'm not armed, so that they could maybe make it easier for him to get out of that car. I'm getting information, dog not harmed. So that's
good.
Take that off the table. But the fact that he was swinging that knife around at that dog, that was just what. If he's going to do it to the dog, he's going to do it to an officer. So again, he's basically just kind of wedged himself in a situation where he's stuck in that car right now. Only way he's going to get out is to basically put down that weapon, come out of that vehicle, and go into custody.
And you mentioned the canine. It didn't look like he was all that fazed by the canine either. I mean, just defending himself the best he could. Thank goodness he did not make contact with the canine officer, and the dog is okay.
Yep.
And it looks like the dog's ready to go again.
The dog is definitely ready to go again. He's looking for round two. He's like, I didn't get him the first time, I'll get him the next time. But it did appear that at least he got one chomp in on the leg. There he goes, the door's getting pushed open. This might be the moment that we have all been waiting for so long. But again, it looks, I'm not sure if that is something inside. Oh, it's a mask maybe. I can't tell. There's something white there. Okay, but it looks like the door is open, so this might be this coming to an end. But again, it's really up to him. He's got to get out of that vehicle. He's got to follow those commands and go into custody. Let those officers put those silver bracelets on him, and it's going to bring it to an end. Does look like at least there's some conversation. Back out of the car. And we'll see what's going on. Yeah, I can't imagine what the comments are right now, but there you go, hands on top of the head. This looks like it's coming to an end as all his options have been eliminated. Hopefully, hopefully he realizes that this is really over. So there you go. It looks like it is coming to an end peacefully. They're going to let one of those officers come up there, put those cuffs on him. And the dog is probably right there as well, but this time the handler is going to keep that leash on him, I'm sure.
All right, well, we're going to stay with this to make sure that he is actually taken into custody. If this happens, it's going to be about 3 hours since this pursuit started.
Yeah.
He's doing as officers say. He's going to kneel down.
Yep.
And
there you go. There you go. This is the moment we've been waiting for.
Right.
There you go. One cuff, and then they're going to bring the hand back down, and the second cuff's going to go on, and that wraps this one up, Marla. This one from start to finish. SkyFOX here first, by the way. We were the first ones on this chase, and coming to an end with the suspect in custody, possibly with a dog bite, but other than that, no other injuries that we know of. And again, some crazy moments, though, that is for sure, Marla?
Including a standoff on the 5 freeway in Buena Park that shut down the 5 freeway for about 15 minutes, so traffic was definitely hindered this Friday afternoon. And here we are in Lakewood, Bloomfield Avenue and Lemming Street, where we're seeing finally this carjacking suspect being taken into custody by LAPD officers. Remarkably, Stu, just to recap, no major accidents throughout.
Yes, no major accidents throughout. This is a carjacking, so you got to wonder about the person who owns that vehicle. Probably not happy about watching what that vehicle's gone through, but hopefully they had insurance and it'll all be taken care of. We always say that you can replace things, but again, nobody was injured. That is an amazing in itself. That suspect in custody right now, and LAPD, they've had it this entire time, basically from inception to cuffs. It has been theirs the entire time.
All right, we have a ground camera there, and that's where Susan here is. Susan, finally taken into custody. What are you seeing?
My gosh, this is probably the most dramatic pursuit I've ever reported on, in that he looked pretty hemmed in at that original location with the standoff, and yet there he, well, you saw the maneuvers better than I did in order to go basically 3 long city blocks. And now that it's all over, there's a lot of LA County Fire Department that are arriving on scene, some fire trucks. you know, we basically hoofed it in order to get you this shot where you can see the suspect there in custody now. It was quite bizarre because there are, of course, a lot of the same looky-loos that were on the corner that came down with us, and it didn't take long, though, for the sheriff's deputies to get the police line up so that they could keep the public back. But as I said, right now, the activity has to do with the LA County Fire Department. They are arriving on scene, a number of fire trucks, and also a rescue ambulance is arriving. If that suspect was indeed bitten by the dog, perhaps the dog not harmed. We heard from the handler herself for sure, so that's the good news. But the suspect may have been bitten by the dog, so they will attend to him in that situation. And you can see there from our ground shot all of the vehicles that are arriving now. And what is also sort of interesting is that at one point there were some onlookers that were actually rooting for the suspect. You never know what you're going to hear when you stand by and take a listen to what people are saying. But at this point, you know, it's all over but the shouting, I guess, with the suspect in custody now. And people just standing by, they're all looking at their phones or have their phones up, trying to get some kind of documentation or their own photographic souvenir of the fact that this came to their neighborhood in Lakewood. So again, we're on Bloomfield. We're probably, as I said, 3 or 4 long city blocks away from the original location. And right now, as I mentioned before, the postures have all changed. And so now people are feeling much more at ease that the suspect is in custody. Marla.
Thank you so much for your reporting on this this afternoon. We also see the firefighters and paramedics arriving on scene as this pursuit of a carjacking suspect that started in South Los Angeles comes to a pretty incredible end in Lakewood 3 hours after it started. We will have a full wrap-up, including Susan Hirasuna live from the scene, coming up on the Fox 11 News at 5 o'clock. That completes our coverage. Stu Mandel and our SkyFOX crew, thank you so much. Glad you kept safe. Thank you for your reporting up there. And we'll look forward to the full wrap-up tonight on the Fox 11 News at 5. Thank you for watching us at home. I'm Marla Tejas in the Fox 11 newsroom. We will send you off to Nick Cannon, already in progress.